Hi there. I talked about roboeconomics before. Roboeconomics is a combination of robotics, ecological economics, and what it is basically the result of what can be achieved, what can be done with the technology that we have today. You know, it's of course a big disappointment that we are not using all the technology that we have to the best of our let's say, our benefit. For instance, of course, solar power should have been exploded many years ago, many decades ago. Concentrated solar power also is being suppressed by the oil and the coal industry, and all these technologies have been suppressed. And had they been used, then we would have not been in this ecological disastrous situation. That's only because a few people want to keep control. They want to have centralized distribution of energy through which they basically can switch on and off parts of the world economy. So now, right now, there's actually a battle between, well, the prevalence of Keynesian economics, which is a complete lie and a complete misconception, but it only works as long as you have centralized energy distribution and cooperating banks, and roboeconomics, which is what happens if that system of Keynesian economics is defeated. The oil credit system or the carbon credit system, you can use one name or another. And it's a real fight, because Nathan Rothschild is actually building up a coal imperium, a coal monopoly around the world with his money, by buying up all kinds of coal reserves, most recently Bumin or something like that in Indonesia. But he has stated that plan, he has stated his objective to own all the coal in the world. And of course, if he does that, he owns all the metal melting, all the power plants. He can control all that, and he's a bank. Rothschild is of course a bank, and is allied and of course underwrites probably a number of other banks. So what you get, if that plan succeeds, if it's allowed to happen, you get a world economy where banks are once again in charge, and they distribute the money in order to distribute the energy towards the parties that they like the best, that are the most fun to deal with. But the eco-pollution, the destruction will continue. It's unavoidable that way, if you allow that to happen. Funny thing is, so you don't want that to happen. So basically, the fight is between allowing centralized energy distribution to continue, and basically fundamentally demolishing that infrastructure. And what you need for that is a political will, and you cannot base that on economics. You cannot base that on wealth, which is very difficult. So it has to be well, I guess if there's an existential threat to one of the nations because of this system, and it gets a mind to destroy it, then we might get rid of it. But otherwise, it's very hard to motivate people to basically throw away their own lunch and not eat for a day or something like that. People really don't want to suffer. Roboeconomics, on the other hand, also has a chance to encroach upon this centralized energy system, which is it's really aggressive in conquering current renewable industries. It has become more active lately, and you can see that by solar companies being basically seduced into being stock exchange rated. So having a stock, having their share on the stock exchange, which is a big mistake. You should never do that. And now we see that some companies in the US are switching to PV from solar thermal, concentrated solar power, which is more cheap and more coal efficient, so less carbon polluting to construct and to exploit. But the banks, so the story is that, for instance, one of the big German solar companies has decided to move to PV in the US, because then it doesn't need the guarantees of the US government, which would like to overcome the banking carbon credit cartel. But it can use credit from the banking system, which basically means that your solar company is now in the hands of the banking system. Banking system is profiting from it, is able to distribute the productive capacity that is brought in from the renewables, and is able to, of course, make that compete unfavorably with the carbon-based productive capacity, which is based on coal. You should never ever mingle your renewable company with in a dependency with the banking system. You should have a new currency for your own renewable power. That is automatically an aspect of roboeconomics. Roboeconomics basically says that, well, first of all, you have machines industrialization, so lots of jobs don't need to be done. You have automatic bakeries, automatic farming, or more or less with very little people. You have shoes are made in factories. Everything can be made by machines, and maybe there's manual labor at this moment, but that's also being rapidly phased out because, let's say, more dexterous tasks in the factory can be done by machines and robots. That's fine. That means that the humans can have very pleasant lives, and if you don't have too much of them on the world, we can all live in a big pleasure garden. Especially because we can power all those robots with renewable energy. And the renewable energy can also recycle all the waste that we have, so we can basically put ships in the Pacific gyre where all the plastic is accumulating at the moment, let them catch up all the plastic or dump it in the deep ocean, and restore that ecosystem automatically using robots with renewable power. It's all possible. And we should start as soon as possible. You should simply begin with that. So that's the robo aspect, is that the sustaining aspects of our lives are mechanized. Basically, we create an environment that doesn't require much work that can sustain us. And where have we arrived after the 20th century then? Very surprising in the equivalent of the forest that we came from. Because, the jungle we came from, we basically were walking around looking for honey and fruit and whatever we found. To hunt and eat, and we did that, and that was it. It was there. Didn't have to farm. So basically, you could say that human history has been an exercise in masochism, starting with farming and ending in the Industrial Revolution, which the masochism turned suicidal, and we are now on the brink of entering the robo-economic era, where we can once again be free of labor. So whoever says, we need jobs, doesn't understand what's going on, because they're asking for jobs in order to have an income, in order to be able to spend it on what they need. But they should simply get money to spend it on what they need and not have to work for it. That's much better, of course. Never ask for work. You can do what you want. You can hang around. It's not a problem. But another important aspect of it, and I already talked about it, but I'll mention it again, is that the currency in this robo-economics is, of course, the energy that provides all the wealth, that lets all the machines work, and people can exchange that in order for labor, let's say, to represent a reserve in order to buy whatever they need from the producers that need the energy to produce whatever you need. So you can still, the nice aspect of having an economy with money in it floating around is that you can have quality feedback, because you don't buy the crap bread, you buy the nice bread. If you have money to spend on it, you have preferences. And that's what we have seen lately in the economy, with Keynesian economics, is that quality went way down, basically because of cartel formation and agreements between manufacturers to all not produce better quality than X, or all not produce better quality than N. You can see that in every part of the industry. And why did they do that? Well, because they had to They had to cut the cost, because they were working with limited resources. In robo-economics, you basically don't have limited resources. You can strive for optimal quality in every aspect of every product, and you have the money to decide what's the better product. So it's a very democratic system as well. See, if you know that that system is achievable, and I basically decided to talk a little bit about the vision of the future. That's why I'm talking about robo-economics now, because it's much more interesting to have a goal to strive for than to be constantly bitching about what's wrong. But if you know that that system is achievable, and of course in that system, the robo-economic system, the fiat currency mistake is fixed. So fiat currency is a hack on gold. I talked about it before. The big mistake with fiat currency is that it exists after you have spent it. So if you so let's say if you have a gold certificate and you bring it to the goldsmith, then the certificate disappears the moment you bring it to the smith and you get your gold. But in the banking controlled system, where the banking system basically wants to control the money supply and wants to get it back all the time, money never disappears. It only disappears into the banks which supply it. So they say, well, we create a debt. If you bring the money back, we can decide either to make it disappear, pay off the debt, or we can keep it on the balance sheet and bring it back into circulation. That's how we control the money supply, and basically your ability and freedom to choose between products and, of course, fundamentally spend fossil fuels, which is because it's a carbon credit. Maybe I should not call it the oil credit, but the carbon credit system. So the new money in the Roboeconomics is energy money. It basically, and I've thought about it, I think we should have a currency, and everybody can emit it. Everybody that produces energy can bring energy money in circulation, but some energy money will be more attractive than others. For instance, if I have a solar panel and I have a neighbor has a laundering machine, I can emit that money and barter with it, get stuff from him. Because he's close by, but of course if you're 5 kilometers down the road, you won't have that much electricity if I deliver 1 kilowatt. So the point with that currency is that I simply deliver a kilowatt to the network, and the owner of the certificate will use whatever he's able to gather at his side of the equation, which is difficult, which basically ironically requires a smart grid to implement. But once he has done that, that money is gone again. So you have endpoints in the economy which make money disappear, and you always have as much money in circulation as there is productive capacity in terms of energy. And so you have an incentive to bring more energy production online, which will deflate the prices of everything. Everything will become very cheap in the end. And of course you have an incentive to have efficient houses and all that stuff. Simply because then, you know, life gets even more cheap. But that's Roboeconomics. If you know that it's achievable, then it's much easier. It's much easier to motivate yourself to get rid of these Rothschild people. It's basically, you know, it's just a guy. It's a Nathan, and his brother got assassinated. You know, in the world of wheeling and dealing, these high rollers, it's all very funny. But they have been born out of you know, children of men, and nothing special about them. It's just that when they basically use the law, they suddenly become very powerful and very ephemeric and hard to counter. And of course, yes, the legal system is a complete tool of the current banking system industry, a very bad one actually, because it always pretends it's in the middle, but it should basically cry for its very sad role in many of these, because of course for instance Coca-Cola steals all the water, and then it does it first, nobody objects to it, and then suddenly you have protest, and these people can have procedures for years and years and get a little bit of money after 5 years of suffering in the courts. And that's just disgusting and ridiculous, but that's because corporations can bribe the legal system. Finally, you know, that won't go away with renewable energies, because there's a nice item about a desalination plant in Australia where the new desalination plant is built and it's working on wind power. It's not the cheapest option to have reverse osmosis desalination based on wind power. It's actually very expensive for what you're getting, but of course it's 100% clean, it's 100% green. So it's basically Roboeconomic facility, but it has a monopoly, or it has a price advantage, and the banking system is on top of it, and all that stuff. All the same things keep happening with these new, even with renewables. You won't get rid of it. Only if you specifically get rid of fractional banking and fiat currency will you solve the problems that they create. And it's very important to do that as soon as possible, because our planet is basically dying from the addiction that these bankers have to fossil fuels. And these mandatory allegiance in order to get their Ponzi scheme, keep it going. We should do something about that very quickly.